Welcome to Session 3 of We Care,
a compassionate response for associates.
This presentation is brought to you by Ascension, Wisconsin, EAP. Today we are on Session 3, which addresses the very important topic of self-care. In order to be effective helpers, we need to take good care of ourselves. Let's begin with a short reflection by author Katie Reed. Self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. The objectives for this session are to discuss the importance of self-care when providing a We Care response, define related terms that make self-care essential, and discover self-care strategies to use personally or share with others. Just a few words before we dig in. This material may not be new to you. Maybe you know some of it. Maybe you know all of it. Maybe you know none of it. The intention is to raise awareness for the We Care initiative, as well as educate associates on what it means and how we can live it out. We ask that you please carefully consider how you can use this information, both personally and professionally. Let's begin with an activity taken from the online book, Power and Price of Survival by Pamela Wall. Get comfortable in your chair with both feet on the floor. If you're standing, you can stand with your back to the wall. You can close your eyes if you're alone or with people you trust who are grounding too. Or you can keep your eyes open and rest them someplace neutral. Notice the support that the back of the chair or wall is giving you. On your back, on your seat. Keep feeling that support and notice any physical sensations it gives you. Notice your feet connecting with the ground. Notice any sensations that gives you. Push a little bit with your feet against the ground and notice what happens in your body when you feel that extra contact. Now relax your legs. If pushing against the ground made you feel more comfortable, remember that, so you can use it in the future when you feel uncomfortable. Check in with your breath without changing the way you're breathing or making an effort to breathe a certain way. Just notice your breath and follow it as it goes in and out. See if you notice anything about your breathing. When you pay attention to it, does it get deeper or more shallow? Notice any physical sensations as you breathe. If you notice any places in your body that may be feeling tense, just shift your attention to someplace else in your body that's feeling less tense, or even someplace that's feeling calm and relaxed. Just connect with that place for a while, feeling that calm place in your body. Make a mental note of that place so you can go back there at times when your stress system starts to overreact. If that place in your body still feels calm when your stress reactions start to rise, that might be a good place to remember and focus your attention on. Let your attention drift like a very slow wave down from the top of your head, all the way down past your back, sensing into the support of your chair or the wall, all the way down to your feet, connected to the ground. When you're ready, if you close your eyes, open them and bring your attention back to the room or the scene around you. Notice the people around you, the furniture, the walls, the trees, the ground. You might ask yourself to name 10 objects that you can see around you. What do you notice in your body when you notice what's around you? Do you feel more or less comfortable? Practice this whenever you can, so you'll remember to do it when things get intense. The previous grounding exercise was taken from The Power and Price of Survival, Understanding Resilience, Stress, and Trauma. Ascension, Wisconsin EAP highly recommends this resource as a tool to help yourself and others. It is a free online workbook that offers solid information on trauma and recovery, as well as interactive exercises and activities to help you practice self-care and increase resilience. We will be referencing this workbook throughout our session today. In this first section, we will discuss the reasons for self-care, as well as talk about other related terms that make self-care so essential. Why should you take care of yourself? Because it's good for you. That should be reason enough. But for many people, it's not. So here are a few more. When you take care of yourself, you take better care of your patients and your loved ones. And we know that helping work hurts. Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor, psychiatrist, and psychotherapist, understood that very well. He said that what is to give light must endure burning. As helpers, you offer a lot of light and do a lot of good for a lot of people, but helping takes a toll. Compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue was coined in the early 90s by an ER nurse named Carla Johnson. She recognized that over time, she and her colleagues were getting worn down from the work that they were doing and called it compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is the emotional residue from working with suffering people, or in other words, compassion fatigue is when helping hurts. Secondary trauma stress, or STS, is another way that helping can hurt. STS is the distress that one experiences from hearing about the trauma experiences of another. Even though the person hasn't seen or experienced any aspect of the trauma or crisis, just hearing about it in enough detail can cause the helper to experience stress reactions and even symptoms that mimic post-traumatic stress disorder. A person may have intrusive thoughts, nightmares or flashbacks of the gruesome depictions they have seen or heard from others. They may become anxious or afraid, or avoid certain people, places, things that remind them of the stories they have heard. They may become hypervigilant or overly sensitive to troubling or upsetting news. Secondary traumatic stress can become very debilitating if not dealt with effectively. Burnout. Symptoms of burnout may include emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and reduced feelings of accomplishment, especially as it relates to work. It usually develops as a result of work stress and is not necessarily related to trauma, although it can be. Two leading causes of burnout include bullying in the workplace or a poor organizational climate, which can include large caseloads, lack of support, inadequate resources, inability to take breaks or time off, etc. Basically, burnout results from continual stress without rest. Moral injury. Moral injury is a relatively new concept that has mostly been attributed to war veterans. However, recognition of moral injury is expanding to other fields such as teaching and healthcare. Moral injury is perpetrating, failing to prevent, or bearing witness to acts that transgress deeply held moral beliefs and expectations. Diane Silver called it a deep soul wound that pierces a person's identity, sense of morality, and relationship to society. Some people refer to moral injury as trauma's moral dimension. There are an infinite number of ways a person may experience moral injury, but here are a few examples. An overwhelmed doctor misdiagnoses a patient with fatal consequences. An office worker forges documents to avoid losing a job. Due to limited resources, a healthcare provider must decide who gets life-saving treatment and who doesn't. An expectant mother feels pressure to abort a problem pregnancy. Parents refuse a crucial medical procedure for their child because it goes against deeply held religious beliefs. Flex your empathy muscle for just a minute. Put yourself in the shoes of any one of these examples above. What might you be thinking? How might you be feeling? Can you feel the pain of moral injury, even in this quick exercise? The Green Cross Academy of Traumatology is an international humanitarian assistance nonprofit corporation established for the purpose of establishing and maintaining professionalism and high standards in the care of trauma victims and responders throughout the world. This organization has created a document called Ethical Principles of Self-Care, which should be adopted by anyone who is in a position to help others, especially others who may have experienced trauma. The principles of this document declare that it is unethical not to attend to your self-care because sufficient self-care prevents harm to those we serve. It goes on to say that ultimately it is your responsibility to take care of yourself, and no situation or person can justify neglecting it, and the duty to perform as a helper cannot be fulfilled if there is not, at the same time, a duty to self-care. So let's talk about ways we can take good care of ourselves. First, let's talk about some in-the-moment strategies you can use when stress becomes overwhelming or difficult to manage. The first one is simply breathe. When we're stressed, our breath becomes quick and shallow. Instead, breathe in for several counts. Hold. Breathe out for several counts. Repeat. While you're breathing, imagine a balloon filling with air in your belly when you breathe in. Belly breathing will heighten your body's relaxation response. Deep breathing is a powerful relaxation technique that works anytime, anywhere, but as with anything, it gets easier and better with practice. The next quick strategy is to count. When we get stressed, our reactions tend to come fast, and we usually have to apologize later. Maybe we become frantic, emotional, or impulsive. Maybe we shut down altogether and can't think or move. Both of these reactions are normal in tense situations. You can thank your fight or flight system for that. Even though these reactions are normal, they usually aren't helpful. To counteract the fight or flight response, count slowly in your head. This strategy works great in partnership with deep breathing. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Breathe out for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Repeat. When we're stressed, our fight or flight system kicks in. Our bodies get ready for intense action. You can use your imagination to create an image of a place in your head where you feel strong, calm, and peaceful. It might be a place you've been in the past, or one you'd like to find. Explore what that place looks like, sounds like, feels like, smells like. Draw a picture or find a photograph. Keep it handy in your head so you can visit and use it to calm down your stress system whenever the chemicals rise and your stress reactions start to get out of control. Breathe, count, and visualize are great strategies for in-the-moment stress, but they are not enough to mitigate chronic stress. Prevention is key. Staying healthy and well all the time will help you be healthy and well during the tough times. There are many things to consider when we think of balance or being well. This is a depiction of the wellness wheel, a model which helps us to consider all of the aspects of our lives. Relational, having mutually supportive relationships, a balanced give and take. Occupational, is your work satisfying? Do you feel productive and that your contribution matters? Do you have a healthy work environment? Emotional, being able to recognize and manage your emotions rather than letting them manage you. Intellectual, keeping your brain sharp through critical thinking challenges, hobbies, or ongoing education. Spiritual, this boils down to 2 things. What is the purpose of my life? Am I connected to something bigger than myself? Many people get these 2 questions answered through their faith or religious community, but this could also be a connection with nature, volunteer work, advocacy. There are many ways to be spiritual. Financial. There are 3 keys to financial wellness. Pay down debt, increase savings, invest in your future. Easy enough, right? Finally, physical. Diet, sleep and exercise, also wellness exams, routine screenings, dental appointments, etc. We may be really great at some of these and really horrible at others. That's okay. You can pick any area to start making a change. We will talk about ways to improve in each of these areas next. Let's start with physical. This is probably the most talked about and promoted aspect of wellness, and I'm sure you've heard it all before. Eat healthy, increase consumption of nutrient-rich foods, and be sure to drink plenty of water. Cut out caffeine, sugar, and trans fats as much as possible. and use alcohol in moderation, if at all. Exercise. Release tension, tone muscles, and release feel-good hormones. Did you know that exercise is a natural antidepressant, and in several studies has been shown to work as well as some prescription medications? Finally, shut it down. Go to bed at a reasonable time and shut off screens at least an hour before bedtime. In fact, spending time unplugged is a good way to give your brain a break at any time of the day. Relationships are important. If you remember from session 2, we talked about the importance of social connection and the impact on mental health, resilience, and recovery. Therefore, it's important for you as a helper to maintain good quality relationships. Stay connected. Spend time with family and friends, in person if possible, but social media or video chat is good too. Ask for support when you need it. Set a time period for talking about stressful things. Then shift gears and focus on enjoying your time together. And don't forget, showing kindness is always a good idea. Send a note of appreciation or make coffee for your spouse in the morning. Kindness doesn't have to be elaborate, expensive, or time-consuming. It's the little things that count. We already mentioned that the 3 simple keys to financial wellness are: pay down your debt, increase your savings, and invest in your future. If, however, you're like most people, you may find that these things are simple, but they're not easy. We don't have time to give a budgeting class here, but we know that financial stress has significant impact on mental health and wellness. Stick to a budget, be accountable to your partner if you have one, and consider calling your EAP if you want to get your finances in better shape. Occupational self-care. We spend more time at work than we do with our own families, so it's important that our workplaces are positive, supportive places to be. Although there is probably a lot about your workplace that you can't control, do your part in being the best teammate you can be. Allow yourself to be both supportive to others and let others support you sometimes. Be kind. Do your best every day and then let go of the things you can't control. Focus on the positive impact you make in your environment and with your patients and teammates. Deal with conflict constructively, focusing on solutions rather than playing the blame game. Emotional self-care. Many people have a very elementary grasp of emotions, sometimes as simple as mad, sad, glad, or scared. That's a good place to start, but it really isn't enough to understand and express the wide array of human emotions that we experience. Let's do a quick exercise. See how many feeling words you can think of in the next few seconds. Ready? How many could you come up with? Now, could you think of a time you felt each of these emotions? Exercises like these are a great way to expand your emotional vocabulary and awareness of emotions. Other ways to practice emotional self-care is to do creative art, write poetry, or use metaphors to describe how you feel. Pretend or imagine scenarios where you win $1 million, or you could build the house of your dreams. It's fun to think about these things. Sometimes, when we've gone through difficult situations, it can be helpful to write a narrative of your story or journal about your experiences. Finally, talking to someone you trust can be very beneficial in healing from emotional wounds, especially if that person responds compassionately with unconditional positive regard, very much like the response we provide to others when we initiate a "we care" response. Sometimes, though, we need to take a break from our emotions. When you engage the logic or intellectual centers of your brain, your emotional centers turn off. For example, doing math or logic puzzles, riddles, Sudoku, or chess can be great ways to keep your brain sharp and give your emotions a break. Making lists or cleaning and organizing your space can help you feel more productive and in control, which may help you feel less emotional. When thoughts become jumbled or confusing, creating a timeline or sequence of events can help put things back in order, or make a plan, detailing each step of your solution. These logical strategies can help bring structure and stability to a person who feels out of control. Spiritual self-care. Gratitude. What are you thankful for today? An attitude of gratitude has major health benefits, including improved mental and physical health, increased productivity, higher self-esteem, and even a longer life. Take some time every day, or several times a day, to reflect on the good things. Don't let your blessings pass unnoticed. Evaluate your priorities and live life in line with them. What are your top values? Does the way you live your life reflect them? It's easy to get distracted with things that don't matter. So commit to intentionally refocusing on your priorities regularly. Closely related to the idea of priorities is purpose. Have you considered the purpose of your life? What are you here for? What meaning can you find in your circumstances? These questions are very deep and highly personal. But, you guessed it, living with a sense of purpose has amazing health benefits for a better, happier life. Many people have found meaning in the worst of circumstances. These positive changes after traumatic events is called post-traumatic growth, or, as I like to call it, the silver lining. People who have experienced post-traumatic growth report 5 areas of impact: improved relationships, greater appreciation for life, new opportunities or pathways in life, greater sense of personal strength, and deepening of faith or spirituality. Think of a time you grew or changed as a result of a difficult or even terrible circumstance. What changed for you? In case you still don't have any good ideas for ways to self-care, here are just a few more. Use music to regulate your mood. Journaling can be a great way to neutralize emotions. Color mandalas. Practice mindfulness. Spend time in nature. Cuddle with your pets. Pray. Make a self-care plan and write down your ideas. Add to it daily. When times get tough, it can be difficult to think of things that help, but your list can serve as a powerful reminder when you need it most. Remember the Green Cross Academy of Traumatology, ethical principles of self-care that we discussed earlier? Well, here are a few more points from that document. To be ethical in your self-care, you must have effective barriers to sustain balance between work and play, effective relaxation time and methods, frequent contact with nature or other calming stimuli, and effective methods of creative expression. You must also have effective skills for ongoing self-care, such as assertiveness, stress reduction, interpersonal communication, cognitive restructuring, and time management, effective meditation or spiritual practice that is calming, and finally, effective methods of self-assessment and self-awareness. Your self-care is just as important as the care you provide to others. We know that helping hurts because of compassion fatigue, secondary traumatic stress, burnout, and moral injury. Reach out. Ask for help. Debriefing with a teammate or another We Care helper can be extremely beneficial. Don't forget that social connection has a strong link to resilience and recovery, so don't try to do it alone. Good self-care is part of delivering good service.
In conclusion, let's do one more self-care activity. This one is called Safe Container, taken from Power and Price of Survival. If you have a strong imagination, this tool might be for you. Your stress system grows stronger and more resilient when you go back and forth, in and out of mild or moderate stress. If you remember things that are upsetting, it's good to practice resilience skills that can help you bring yourself away from the memory and back into the you. For the sake of this activity, bring to mind a recurring thought or memory that sometimes bothers you. It can be something you saw or heard about at work, a distressing news story, or anything else that creates stress in your body when you think about it. Don't choose anything too distressing, as this is just a practice run. Now use your imagination to build a container strong enough to hold the memory. You can make it any size and shape you like, of any material you like. You'll want to equip it with some sort of secure lock so you can lock the memory in it and the memory can't get out. What would your container be made of? This tool can help you do that. It works very well if you have intrusive thoughts or can't stop thinking about something you saw or heard that is very distressing. What would it look like? What would you use to seal and lock it? Open the container, put the memory in, and lock it up. Imagine what the lock looks and sounds like and notice what happens to your body when you lock it. Make sure the lock is secure. Ask your stress system if the memory is securely locked away and notice the sensations in your body to see if it feels secure. If you need to, add more seals or locks. Put the container somewhere where the memory can't get out. If the memory is particularly intense, you might want to bury the container underground. At each step along the way, check your body's sensations to see if it's locked away securely enough. Next time you're ready to work on the memory, you can dig it up, unlock it, get it out, and work on it. Only you can decide when it's time to let the memory out again. Okay. Were you able to create a container strong enough to hold the memory? Hopefully this strategy will be helpful in managing some of the difficult things you might see and hear when you are trying to help. We hope you have enjoyed Session 3 of We Care, a compassionate response for Ascension Associates. We discussed the importance of self-care when providing a We Care response and defined related terms that make self-care essential, such as compassion fatigue, secondary traumatic stress, burnout, and moral injury. We have discussed several self-care strategies that you can use personally or share with others, and we encourage you to check out the free online book, The Power and Price of Survival by Pamela Wall. On behalf of Ascension Wisconsin EAP, I want to thank you for your time and your investment in the Ascension We Care initiative.